Good morning, Bobby. How are you doing? Oh, what's that? So it is supposed to get very hot today. So I'm trying to let her outside for a bit because I don't want her out when it's up in the 30s. That's too much. Typical cat doesn't know if she wants to be in or out. Okay. But also before it gets too hot, also I need to show you these. Like, look. They're a little bit sunburnt now. But look how big these are. Like, this one. And then you got this one. Come on, there we go. Like, I can't believe how big these are. Hello, don't worry about my hair. It's in need of a cut. I'll deal with it. It'll be fine. I brought you outside because it's too dark inside. It's going to hit like 35 degrees today. So we've closed all the windows and curtains and blinds, try to keep the heat out. But it does mean it's quite dark inside. And it's currently not too hot. Sat here, I'm in the shade. And hopefully it's not too noisy. Hopefully we can have a little chat. So I'm currently in the middle of these two. Show you the back. Oh look. I finally got my Kawakami book that I've been waiting for. I've said that I was really hoping it would be more like Breasts and Eggs than Heaven. Like Heaven is a good book, but it's just really brutal. There's a lot of like bullying, but it's very violent bullying. So it's a bit much. Whereas this is just back to characters kind of figuring their life out, and we're back to adults as well. So this one is about a proofreader, and at the point where we meet her, she's moved to become a full-time freelancer. So she basically works from home the whole time, and she's quite a lonely character. She doesn't really see anyone, and the only person we see her talk to is her kind of line manager, I guess is the best way to describe her. She's the only person she talks to, and this other woman is like quite a big personality. And now, now I think about it, it's a situation I've been in because I'm quite introverted. I can hold a conversation, but obviously when you interact with really big personalities, it becomes harder and harder. So you talk less and less, and they talk more and more and more and more. And so that's the situation. So we see her meet up with this woman a couple of times, and she's just like chatting and spewing word vomit. But our main character is like even worse than me. She just does not really. She's not very talkative. She finds it quite hard to think of things to say, and it's shown that she like quite enjoys just sitting and listening to her, or at least she says that she's enjoying it. At this point as well, when they have this chat, it's made a point that the woman who's really chatty is just like knocking back drinks and she's fine, and the other woman doesn't drink, so she's just having these like mango juice fake cocktails. because she's like, oh, I tried beers once and it made me really sick or made me really dizzy, so I've not had it since. But this woman kind of goes, oh, but it loosens you up. And then there isn't really a point where we see the character make a decision, but we get to like another scene and suddenly she's drinking. We have this switch from her like being teetotal and sober to suddenly like getting a bit of a drinking problem because it kind of happens at a point in life where she's intrigued and maybe is ready to try out some things in life. But she has extreme anxiety, so like it's very clear that she's using the alcohol as a way to, as a bit of a crutch to loosen her up so that she'll go do things. But this backfires massively, as you would expect, because she definitely overdoes it. Definitely backfires because she's just showing up like drunk to things and starts feeling like she's gonna throw up. So that's not quite working out so well for her. Yeah, really liking it. Really liking this depiction that's like there's clearly a lot of anxiety for this woman, and most likely she is depressed. And I've just reached a point where we get a flashback that starts to explain why that is. Yeah, I'm currently 136 pages in. It's only a short book. It is like 220 pages, so I might finish it today, might not, we'll see. So yeah, it's exactly what I wanted from Kawakami, so I am happy about that. So this season, so I tend to have at least one fantasy on the go, and then I will sort of like split it up with. My go-to at the moment is pairing off fantasy with Japanese fiction, but something else can take that slot. But my next go-to fantasy was actually going to be Shadow of the Gods, but it's really hot and sunny, and I kind of figured that I should probably pick a book more in theme, or at least that wasn't going to be giving me loads of snowy scenes. Like, I know it's Viking inspired, so that there's a good chance that that was going to be the case with Shadow of the Gods. So I had a look, and so I've got a couple of other books lined up that are going to be my summer fantasy / sci-fi. So I thought this was a good excuse to finally check out this season. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily summery, but it's not winter, so not at the moment anyway. And then I think Rage of Dragons is on that list, and then Children of Dune. Obvious choice. I should have picked that up first. So yeah, I actually picked this up. I started reading it a couple of months ago. I read the introduction, and then I put it back down. And I thought, I'm not in the mood for this right now. I'm quite glad I did, because I picked it up this time, got through that section, and carried on, and it's actually been fine. It is just that first introduction that's told in quite a weird. There's definitely like a clear narrator voice that isn't there for most of the regular chapters. So it's quite weird, and there's quite an odd perspective that you're just thrown into. But after that, you get more normal, like third-person perspectives, with one exception, which is the second-person chapters following the woman who's just lost her son. So I'm hoping there's a point to it, and I'm very glad that they're so far they're not a huge part of the book. Don't like that second perspective. So this season, it's this season is kind of like a story where everyone who has basically it's kind of like fantasy X-Men, except everyone is Magneto. like that's not the powers, but like everyone's on that level. So you have these things called the Origins. I think I'm saying that right. And they have this connection to the Earth, where they can create like earthquakes, or I assume they can, for example, make a volcano explode. But then there's also this thing of this exchange of energy. So we've seen like circles of frost being created, and but they can also kind of stop earthquakes that are happening. But they have to be aware that if they stamp an earthquake down, it might have a reaction somewhere else. So yeah, everyone has the same power, but it's like such a huge, big power that has the ability to just like kill thousands of people in one go if they don't control it, or if they're bad and want to kill people. So that's what made me think. I was like, so they're all kind of magnetes. They're all really strong, and because of this, it means that the society is really afraid of them and treats them really badly. So like a young child in a family who is originally loved, but as soon as they found out that the kid's one of these things, then they are like rejected and like treated like crap. So it's quite harsh. And you would think I would look for like the happier, more hopeful chapters, but so I've passed the 150 mark, and we get a part where that's really quite dark, like even darker still, quite harsh, and it like intrigued me even more. It's like, whoa, I was not expecting this to go here. So 150 pages seems to be the point in fantasy books at the moment where I suddenly go, oh, I see where we're going. Okay. So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. And annoyingly, my throat is still drying up after talking for 10 minutes. So I will just show you that I got this, which is the Lena Norm's poetry collection. Basically my first experience of poetry since school. But because of her, I've always been a bit interested in dipping my toe into poetry to see if adult me enjoys it. So I'm quite glad that she's done something. I've read like one poem out of this, so we'll see how I get on with this. I don't know. It's a weird one. I don't know whether to just sit and bosh through it or whether to just pick up and read little bits. We'll see. So it's 34 degrees. So this is the same day still. I wasn't going to film an update, but I managed to finish this. Really good. I think I would probably give it 5 stars. Oh, it's because I'm hitting the. I was like, why did my face go red? The sun's like hitting a brake light outside. So yeah, I think it's another 5-star read for me. So I want to do a bit of a dual review with this and something else. So I won't go into too much detail here, but what I want to do is a little bit of a spoiler chat about the ending. So please use the chapter marks to skip ahead, or just look for when I'll probably be in a different location with different books. But if you don't want to know the very end of this book, please skip, leave. Have you gone? Have you gone? Good? Okay. So towards the end, we have this sequence where what's her name? Fuyuko. So Fuyuko reaches the state where she kind of hits this downward spiral. She goes into a depressive state for a bit. And then she has this realization, like, I've not really made any choices for myself in life. She realizes that she likes the man that she's been hanging out with. And so she finally makes a decision to do something. And so she meets up with him for his birthday, and they have this really fancy meal, whereas like before they've only just met up in the cafe. So they give this fancy meal, and then she kind of cries in front of him, and I kind of thought that was the start of her showing emotion around him, so that maybe she could open up and they could start understanding each other even more. So we have that scene, and then she has this chat with the person who's like her line manager slash kind of friend, and she sort of challenges Fuyuko on her behaviour, because they're two very opposite personalities, but then poor Fuyuko breaks down again, and then the pair are crying, and they're like apologising to each other, and it's quite sweet because it's someone who challenges her, but kind of once she's seen the effect her words have on Fuyuko, she kind of goes, oh shit, I've gone too far again. Because I feel like there's a sense of Fuyuko probably knows that she's kind of right, but she also is aware that she's just really not getting the issues that she's dealing with. So we have this really emotional moment, and then we get a scene where those two are together again, and it's jumped ahead in time, because she is now like 7 months pregnant, and she's she's hilarious. She's such a force of nature, this character. Like, she's gotten pregnant with a man, found out the man's not interested in kids before even telling him, and then she's like, right, we're breaking up, I want this baby. And I was expecting this to then end with him walking in and joining in. I didn't know if it was like Fuyuko's birthday, or I think it's Fuyuko's birthday, so I was expecting the guy to then walk in and us see where things have progressed. No, it's not what happened. We then get a short explanation that he stood her up when it was time for the next date, or she then got blanked by him for a chunk of time, and then he sent her a letter that says, I lied to you, because we thought he was a high school teacher, and he says, no, I lied to you. So he actually worked in a food factory, but then was sacked, or was made redundant or something. So I assume he's just not been working that whole time. And then he just says, I don't think it's just a good idea for us to see each other. And like, this was so unexpected. Like, I don't expect Kawakami to give a neat, happy ending really neat story. I think now that I've read three of her books, I think you have to be accepting of seeing a snapshot of someone's life. Just you're seeing like a year in their life or whatever. I suppose Breast and Eggs was a bit different. Breast and Eggs definitely have an ending to that, but bearing in mind the first half of that book was a novella that was released on its own. But yeah, I was not. It was. I think if any other writer had done that, I would make fun of it and it'd be like, oh, that's the same as like, oh, and then he had to return to his planet, so you never see him again. But it's that suddenness of it. But I think because of the way she's written this book so far, we have. It's a book where you need to read between the lines a little bit. It's never explicitly said that she has anxiety, and even though we get this one flashback from her past, we never really ruminate on what that's done to her. We're kind of left to assume, but I also get the impression that a lot of how she is also a part of her base personality. Like I towards the end, I did wonder if she was actually like neurodivergent, because there's some very basic things that she struggles with, but also the things that she chooses to focus on. But yeah, I can't believe we had this weird left turn at the very end, but I'm not mad at it because I suppose it wasn't really a perfect romance or anything. Because she clearly got herself worked up so much about it. Maybe he was just worried about her drinking around him. Don't knock the camera, Bobby. Okay. She's gonna knock it, isn't she? So yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that ending. I just had to sit down and talk about it before I forgot about it. Before I forgot the details. It's a kind of book I want someone else to have read so that I could have a back and forth about why he did what he did, why it turned out the way it did. Is she just not good enough for him? I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure what my personal theory on it is. But I guess it just comes down to he just didn't think that they were healthy together, which I suppose when your partner just breaks down in tears at the end of a date, yeah, maybe that's a sign. I don't know. So yeah, it's Kawakami. So I don't know what will be next to be picked up. I've got Ruth Ozeki's book, that won the Women's Fiction Prize this year, so that might be my other one to go in between this season. We shall see. hotter than yesterday. It is 36, I think it's 37 now, which is the hottest it's ever been in this part of the country. It's insane. So continuing with the theme of avoiding snowy books and finding things appropriate for the weather, I just went ahead and picked up Children of Dune. I feel like the gap from the last one is probably long enough that it was probably about time to pick it up anyway. I'm only 20 pages in, so just establishing the twins and how old they are. A lot of introspection catching us up and reminding us of things that have happened. So it's actually quite, for June, it's like quite a neat intro into the next book. So if you've been debating reading it, because it's been a while since you've read Dune Messiah, then don't worry, it's actually pretty easy to jump back in. So far, anyway. A little bit more into 5th season. I'm still really enjoying it. And yeah, it's not quite as complicated as I thought it was going to be. I don't know why. I think it was all that opening and also the fact that it's one of these awards. I was like, oh, it's going to be quite a tricky one to get into. But no, it's easy enough to read. It's just got these like very harsh elements to it. So yeah, enjoying that. Kind of at the halfway point, I guess. Don't know if I'll immediately pick up the next one after this. I'm enjoying it enough so far that I think I will carry on and aim to read the trilogy. And it helps that they're all out already, so I don't have to wait for anything. And then this arrived today, 100 Years of Solitude. And yes, it is because of Emmy Reads. I don't know if I'll be quick enough to be keeping up with her read along. But it kind of interested me. I'd seen a video. I think it might have been like a TED YouTube channel, like a TED Talk thing. Not a TED Talk, but it was that brand, and they've done a video on like why you should read it, and actually explained a bit about the plot, like because I knew nothing other than the title. I was like, so it's just about someone stuck on an island for 100 years? No, it's about this Latin American family and going through generations, and there's magical realism, and I was like, oh, this actually sounds really interesting. So I'd been thinking about picking it up anyway, and so that was hearing that Emmy Reeves was going to do a read through was the push to like get it. So I've got a used copy. It feels really nice, and it feels like it's like a really old book. But I looked in the front matter, and this version was printed in like 2014, so it's not for a book that's not old. So they clearly just tried to make it. It's clearly like a classic print, if that makes sense. Oh, so we still have some roses. Yeah. If we go over here, you can see this is what 37 degrees has done to the flowers in 2 days. Thankfully we have some that have like just come out, so we still have some nice ones, but the massive big ones that I loved pretty much all gone. There's one like hidden in there. I don't know, you see that one. And there's a really pink one over there that's just shut up. But yeah, my favourites are sadly gone. Oh my god, this one is huge. Like, it's massive. Um, oh my god, how am I gonna get a picture of this one? Oh, there she is. Oh. Here we go, this is what the finished article looks like. It's holding together really well, actually. I actually got like a slice out of it. Yeah. Like 2 days after being what, 37 degrees, now down to like 13, 14. It's 20 degrees lower and it's raining. But I'm happy because it means that my roses are gonna get, yeah, they're my roses. They're gonna get some water, and as well as all the other plants up here. Bobby, you don't want to go out. See? See? I told you. So you're just gonna sniff the air and make the house cold. Yep. So I thought I'd have a Japanese breakfast today. So yes, that is a raw egg yolk. Normally we fry the egg, but I'm gonna have a go at just doing the raw egg yolk. Got some sea bream, sweet potatoes I cooked yesterday, some miso soup with mushrooms in, and a little bit of apple for dessert. I'm actually really hungry this morning, so I'm looking forward to this. Well, I was gonna find a different filming spot, but Bobby's sat on my lap, so I'm not moving. uh, quick update, I'm about 40 pages away from the end of the 5th season. I'll try not to be spoilery, so I'll just say that there was like a connection between two storylines that I kind of suspected, and then it ended up being right. Um, because I did find it interesting that you've got these three storylines and these three characters, um, and rather than it being a book where it just jumps between them and they're all living at the same pace, if that makes sense, you'll have one that's running through the space of like a week, and then you jump to someone else's chapter, and then it just rushes through like a year. So I found that quite interesting. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason it's structured that way, which is pretty cool. Um, and I'm sure there's a reason for the second person POV, but I've not quite figured that out yet. I've not got that yet. Um, one thing I will say, oh, my arm is being tied. One thing I will say is I'm really surprised by the LGBTQ representation. I don't think it's something I'd heard about, but it's you've got like a trans character, and then the main character is just like, oh, oh, I've seen your naked body, but yeah, you're still a woman, so that's cool. And then you also have this like sort of like a threesome is not the way to describe it. It's like a, or maybe it is. There's like a three-way relationship where you've got these two people who have been forced to sleep together in the past, but don't really want to sleep with each other. But then they have this one guy that they both like, who also likes both of them, and so they kind of all sleep with him, sleep together. Um, but it's shown in a very wholesome way, in a very short space of time. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was lovely. So if you're after a bit of representation in your fantasy, I recommend it. Yeah, I don't think I can say anything else other than that. I am really enjoying it, and I can't believe I was not hesitant to pick it up. I can't believe it took me so long to pick it up. And like I said before, I really think it's because I assumed it was going to be more complicated than it actually was. So don't worry about it. It's actually quite straightforward. And yeah, I'll definitely, once I'm done, I'll go out and pick up the other two. I don't know if I'll probably not start them straight away, but I will definitely go pick them up to have them around. And I have a TBR video that'll be already out by the time I've done this. And that might get jostled around so that I can get through this trilogy. We'll see. I've not read much more of Dune. I've only read a tiny bit at the beginning. Again, that's another one that's hard to talk about because it obviously spoils the other books. All I'll say is it's quite interesting that Jessica is coming back to visit Arrakis, and everyone's like, "Oh God, she's come back to the Bene Gesserit. She's scheming. What's the scheme?" So you've got these people who should be family, but they're all like, "They're gonna stab you in the back." So that's kind of amusing. Yeah, I think that's it for reading stuff. And I'll check in again when fifth season is done, which will probably be tomorrow because we're gonna head to some friends today and have some fun. Sitting on the edge of the chair. Let Bobby have it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Oh, the neighbour's fixing cars again. So I'm sorry if you can hear that. I can't remember if I said in the last bit. Did I mention that I finished fifth season? I finished fifth season. It was really good. Really liked it. I definitely, if it's also been sitting on your shelf for months, I recommend just do it. It's not as intimidating as it first seems. I've read a little bit more of Dune. I'm still only 50 pages in. But we've had a really nice moment between Jessica and one of the children, the girl, which was quite sweet because everyone was very antagonistic towards Jessica. And I was like, oh no, the family's just not fallen apart. But it's like, oh, they're going after each other. Which, has happened before. It's sort of like, I can't remember if he does this in the books, but like Leto knew that Jessica, there's two kind of people in there. There was the mother, but there was the Bene Gesserit. I suppose it's which side's gonna take priority. But there was a moment in the conversation, and I'm like, I don't really get this yet. This concept of things being an abomination. I'm gonna try and not spoil stuff. But there's something that happens with a child in the first one, in the first book, and it means that they have all of this, like, okay, mild spoilers, I guess. I'm gonna try and talk around who they are, but say what happens. So you have this child with these sort of like memories of other people, and they're born with like adult knowledge, so they're almost born adults. I thought that concept by itself was like what an abomination is, but now this book is saying, oh, so that child in that book, the husband, is basically an adult at this point. And then they're saying, "Oh, she's an abomination," but she's only now become an abomination, which I don't get. And they're saying it's because of like the melange, spice, trance, and it's because she's done something with that. But I don't get, as a reader, I don't fully understand what the difference between how she was a few years ago and how she's an abomination now, and why someone else might be on that path. So I don't know if it's just I don't know if it's a sci-fi concept thing or if it's a religious thing. Like they've gone too far and they feel like they can predict the future, maybe. So I'm not sure about. I don't quite get that at the moment. So if you understand, let me know. Um, yeah, I I did pick this up because it was really hot. And now you won't tell because it's just white. I'm sorry. And it's actually the sun's coming out, but we've just had rain. We had 2 days of heat wave that cooled down a little bit, and now we've just had rain. That's how the UK summer goes. It's a difference of like 20 degrees from today to last week. Anyway. So it's now not as fitting as when I first picked it up, which is kind of annoying. Kind of like 100 Years of Solitude, because I kind of get Sunny vibes. So I don't know if I started this yet, but in the last I should have just rewatched last recording, shouldn't I? So yeah, I've just started this one. It's really kind of, what's the word to describe it? No, can't think of. So I knew going in that it was like magical realism, which I'm glad I knew going in, because I think I would have started reading and be like, what is this? Because there's conversations about um this character's wife not wanting to have children because she thinks that their children might be born with like animal parts because someone else in the family was born with a pigtail. Um, uh, but whimsical. Whimsical is the word I was after. It's very whimsical. So yeah, it's an interesting read so far, and not a lot else to say on it because I'm only 38 pages in. It's like a 400-page book, and I think Dune is kind of similar. Yeah, Dune's about 400 pages, so that's what I'm on. That's what I'm doing. I was really hoping my copies of Monster, the manga, would have arrived by now, but it's been like a week and a half and no hint of them being even dispatched from Waterstones. If they weren't in stock, I kind of wish they'd have said, otherwise I would have just ordered from somewhere else, but never mind. Sometimes we don't get what we want, and sometimes we just have to wait for our books, which isn't as fun. So I was kind of hoping that they would arrive because I thought they'd be quite, not an easier read because I know they're like a heavy subject, but manga is a quicker read, I should say. So I thought fitting that in alongside these would work, but I don't know. Maybe I'll just not add any extra to the pile, and I'll just leave it as these two. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I might get sick of the rain and decide that I need to mood read and find shake up my summer TBR that I did. Just mess with it. I might mess with it anyway because I kind of want to carry on with the Broken Earth trilogy. I did kind of have that in the back of my head when I did order all these fantasy books, that I should be able to put my TBR on hold to then finish off a series, if that makes sense. Because I don't want to keep starting series and then not finish anything. So I've given myself permission to interrupt TBRs to carry on with things. Anyway, I think I've babbled on enough. These are what I'm reading right now. Let me know what you're reading below. I'd be interested to hear. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!